Hi guys, this is Lisa back with a new video. Today we're going to talk about a fancy fold card made with some black craft and 4 shades of red cardstock. And we're going to be folding it in a matchbook style. So you can see here, I'm laying out my pieces. What I've got is 2 pieces of black. One is 5 by 7.5. One is black 8.5 by 5. This is going to make a 5 by 7 card base. Then I've got craft at 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and I cut a 3-inch circle out of that. And then 2 pieces of craft, 1 1/4 by 4 3/4. I've also got 4 shades of red cut into 4 by 4 squares where I've got these circles cut out of them. The circles I cut out were 2.5 to 1.5, and then I cut a 3-inch circle out of the craft. As you can see, I'm just folding and putting together the 2 pieces of black so that it makes a long card base that will fold at the bottom up by 1.5 inches from the bottom. So I'm just placing the short piece over the long piece and just folding that 1/2 inch down, put together with some score tape. And now we've got our card base with a 1.5 inch coming up from the bottom. So I'm going to do a little burnishing on my card base. I got a little off of not being at a perfect rectangle when I glued this down together. So I'm just going to do some corner rounding and some burnishing to get that back the way I want it to look, so it looks a little more in line. So I'm using the Crocodile name brand corner punch on the 1.5 inch side to round the corners of that bottom piece that's going to come over to make that matchbook style cut or fold, excuse me. And as you can see on the right, those 4 shades of red that I had cut. So I started with the biggest circle with the darkest color and cut that down 3 of those, and then the lightest color I just left a 4 by 4 inch square, and I cut the actual biggest circle out of this craft paper. So I'm going to be using the Insta Wreath stamp set. I'm going to use the ornament topper, and I'm going to put it in my MISTI and stamp it with Versamark ink and sprinkle on some silver embossing powder. I'm going to melt that with a heat gun. So I'm just getting this set up where I can use the string piece and a little ornament topper that will hold that on there in the MISTI. So my paper is a little bit too long for the MISTI, but that's okay. I just had it hang out the bottom and used a magnet to keep it in place, and it didn't give me any issues. It stamped perfectly. So you can always do that if you need to, if you find your paper is a little bit too long. So now that I've got that embossing ink on it, I'm going to put this silver embossing powder on there, and I'm going to put it 2 or 3 times just to make sure I've got really good coverage, and then I'm going to hit that with my heat tool. And this is the best part to me of embossing, is watching that turn from a powdery substance into a liquid metallic look. It gets me every time. So cool. So I'm going to bring over my heat gun, and it takes literally just seconds to get that to turn. So while I have out my embossing gun and embossing powder and everything, I thought I would go ahead and stamp my sentiment. And I'm going to use a different stamp set for this because I wanted something that was a little bit bigger to go on this bottom piece. So I chose to use one off the Baubles and Bling set that you see here. So I'm going to use this one that says Bling It On. It's so cute. 'Tis the season, bling it on. And it's going to be so pretty when I put that embossing powder on it. So once again, I'm going to use this little baby spoon that you get at the little sample shop when you have ice cream. So I've been saving those all summer every time I go to the Peach Park that's here in our local town. And I bring it home with me. They probably think I'm crazy that I keep the little sample spoon. But it's such a perfect size for this. and then I actually keep it in there with my embossing powders. So now we can start assembling the card. We've got all of our pieces together, and I'm one of those that when I cut paper, I just have to distress the edges, or at least put a light layer of some color, and usually it's black. So I'm using this black soot from Tim Holtz Distress ink and just going to do the edges. I just think it gives it a pop of color and a finished look, because when you cut paper, most of the time it's white core, and I just like that look of it. I think it just kind of pulls it all together. So on each one of these papers, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to distress the edges a little before I glue it down. And I'm going to use, of course, art glitter glue to put all these pieces together. So as I start to stack up these 4 shades of red, the look that I really was going for was not to have them perfectly symmetrical, so that they lined up exactly all along the edges. I kind of want an off-center look to it. And I got this idea from looking at some of the iris folding from the classes that we're going to be having at MadeItCon. I thought that was a kind of a neat look. So that's kind of where my inspiration came from, where I kind of wanted it to be a little off-kilter. It's still going to be a little symmetrical. I guess asymmetric is the right word for it. But anyway, that is the kind of the look I'm going for. So I'm intentionally putting it off to the upper right-hand corner to see how that's going to look. And I think it turned out pretty cool. It gives it a little different look, a little movement, so to speak, in the ornament. So I'm just using some art glitter glue all around the edges and just a little bit, just to kind of help me tack that in place. And I'll go back in when I decide that it is in the right spot that I want, and get a little more glue on there to actually hold it in place. Because as you know, if you work with art glitter glue, you got to be a little bit in a hurry. You can't dilly-dally. It does dry quickly. It's a good and a bad trait, just depending, I guess, on what you're working on. So now that we've got the ornament put together, I will glue the top piece on there, the craft, and then we'll put it on the card base of the black. And you can see, got a little too much art glitter glue, but that's okay. I love that it dries matte. That really has saved me many times, and you'll never even be able to tell at the ending. So I'm just cleaning that up a little bit and going to put it here on our card base. And after I glued this on the base, I knew that I wanted it to come up like that matchbook cover, but I didn't really like how it looked, that it wouldn't lay flat, or it wouldn't stay down, the flap on the bottom. So I've kind of had to think about what I wanted to do. It was a little too late to put a magnet there because I had already matted it. So I thought I would just use some of my Velcro dots that I had gotten from Dollar Tree recently. And that turned out to be really cute, because you're not going to see that Velcro when someone opens this card. They won't see it until they open it to read the sentiment on the inside, or where you sign the inside. So I think it turned out to be pretty cute. And that was a pretty cool way to close it, and really simple and easy to find. Like I say, you can get them at any dollar store really cheap. I got 16 or 20 for $1 at my Dollar Tree very recently. So I hope you have enjoyed this card. It's kind of a simple look, but it does have a different fold to it, so it's got some movement, and I really enjoyed making it for you. Thanks, guys, and please go and like this video.